The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
Hi, you're with Gowri this morning on Durian ASEAN. We're gonna start our ABC News for this morning, presenting fresh news from all over Southeast Asia for you today. Let's move on with the news for today. The first one is reported by the Brunei Times, where high-tech simulator facility goes operational. A new 19 million high-tech simulator facility could turn Brunei into a regional hub for aviation and defense training, said its general manager yesterday. Kevin Speed said the CAE Multipurpose Training Center has already attracted Australians, Chinese, Canadian customers to train for the helicopter simulator this month. Right now, the operators have to go all the way to North America or Europe. So for all the local operators of the S92 and across Australia and Asia, they will gladly come to Brunei because it saves them time and money. The same goes with the S70i. Brunei is the first with the S70i aircraft and first simulator. As the aircraft comes to other ASEAN nations, they will gladly come here, and that will make us the regional hub, which is our vision. In addition to that, Speed said that the center would create job opportunities for Bruneians in the coming years. The facility has already created 65 local jobs, and by year's end, there are plans to have at least 100 locals in the near future, and they seek to have 300 positions for Bruneians. So this is a very good effort by the Brunei, because now all these operators don't have to go all the way to America and Europe. They can have their training right here in Asia, and that saves a lot of time and a lot of money as well. So kudos to Brunei. Moving on to our next news, it's by the Vientiane Times. No driving permit needed for international license holders. So foreign drivers who are holding international licenses can drive in Laos without permission from police and relevant sectors, local transport minister said. Those who hold international licenses do not need to seek any permission before driving in the country, the Director of Department of Transport's Traffic Management Division, Mr. Somnuk Maktatul, said. Mr. Somnuk made the clarification in response to some foreigners being reluctant to drive in Laos because they thought they needed to apply for a special local license. Drivers who hold international driving licenses can inform us if they are fine with driving in Laos. He said Laos would issue temporary license to foreigners living or working in the country for longer periods of times, but they would have to provide clear details about where they lived and where they are employed. And this is to ensure that the license is valid, that it is an international license, but they can still be use it for in Vietnam. And this, I think, makes it convenient for all the tourists in Vietnam because they don't have to go through the trouble of applying for a different license while they are in Vietnam, and they can just use their existing driver's license. And the following news is from BBC, where Thailand coup protests using Hunger Games gesture. And here we have Arlene, who just joined us. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, you want to go on to the next news about Thailand?
So Thailand anti-coup protests use Hunger Games gesture to sort of like explain or promote, or at least to express their protests to get people realize that, you know, this is something that is real to the Thai people. So the people protesting against a military coup in the Thailand has started using a three-finger salute that recalls a gesture of defiance seen in the popular film Hunger Games, as it appears. And actually, I watched the Hunger Game, and I actually like it. I don't know why. What about you? I think it's really real. I mean, when it comes to the Thai political crisis and also the military coup, it seems to be very much similar to the situation in Hunger Games. And I think it's
Yeah, I think so
it's
because
interesting.
like in Hunger Games, we see how the entire country, all the people are ruled by just this one elite force. And like you said, that's very much like what's going on in Thailand right now with the military taking over, and the people are not happy. But at the same time, they cannot protest because the military is way too powerful, and they're trying to look for other ways to do it.
But it's not just the military, but it's also the elite classes. They are the ones that it seems that are controlling the country and letting the rest of the population like just
Suffer
or just just let them fight among each other. You see the partisan politics that is happening in Thailand right now. So the sign in which the middle three fingers are held up, it reminds me of my scout days. You have to pledge yourself to raise the three fingers. So was used as an expression of silent protest against a fictional authoritarian state called Panem in Catching Fire, the second film of the Hunger Games trilogy.
Yeah, one person also tweeted that, "Dear Hunger Games, we have taken your sign as our own. Our struggle is non-fiction. Thanks." So I guess, like you said, they do feel very much related to the plot of Hunger Games, and to them, this is not just a movie. This is nothing. There's nothing fiction about it. It's actually really happening to them, and they have to resort to the movie to figure out a way to go about handling the situation.
One thing interesting about the Hunger Games, I think we need to do a show like just to deconstruct Hunger Game itself, because in the Hunger Game, right, although it's a popular like teen movie, but a lot of the situation happens in the Hunger Game 1 and 2 is very real. It's almost like arts imitates real life,
And also, you see
real life
the way
arts
that
for now.
when they were going into the capital, and how they just have to they don't want to be those kind of people, but when they're there, they just don't have a choice. They have to blend in and adapt to the environment, and they have all this abundance of food to eat, whereas they know that people back home are still suffering, and food and all their basic needs are very scarce there.
And in the Hunger Games, society are divided by classes. They are from the poorest class to the middle class to the most elitist class, and all of them. I mean, the middle class and the poorest class, the lowest class, are left to fight among each other, while the elite class, they just enjoy all the luxury.
And they have the fun, and they just have fun observing people fighting and killing each other to death.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be happening in Thailand soon?
I have no idea. But there are other theories circulating about their gestures origin, the three middle fingers. The news website Cow South tweeted that the three fingers stand for liberty, equality, and fraternity. It's actually a French revolutionary slogan. So the gesture is catching on and has apparently become so widespread that Thailand's coup leaders are investigating whether to arrest people over it.
Okay.
Interesting, right? I mean, it's based on a movie. What if like fans of the movies just want to show it, just to say, hey, we are just.
Well, I guess you can't do that in Thailand, no matter how much you love the movie.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Like, I think we reported a couple of days ago that this one woman was forced into the police car just because she held up the three-finger sign. So,
yeah, that's the thing. So, I mean, to me, personally, the military shouldn't be too paranoid. Like, he shouldn't. I don't think they should investigate. I think they should just realize that people want democracy, and their existence in the Thai government or in the as part of the Thai authority should be very temporary.
Exactly, because like what you said, when they do the three-finger sign, they're not actually hurting anybody or anything. It's just their way of expressing how they feel about the government. So there is no reason to actually just arrest people because they are displaying their dissatisfaction or something.
And talking about the Thai military coup, the next story is about is related to Australia and Thai. So Australians' interest in Thailand travel drops by 30% after military coup. I think this is expected, isn't it?
Yeah, and while there are reports in Bangkok has been more peaceful since the coup, there was a drop of 32% in searches by Australians in the following week, according to accommodation booking site trivago.com.au. So the trend away from Thailand has been reflected globally with an average decline of 27% worldwide, also reported by trivago.com.au, with European and North American countries recording the largest drop in interest.
But Thailand's trouble is a boost for its neighbors, with the countries surrounding Thailand's experience a 7% hike in searches by Australians. So I guess we as the neighbors, we might gain the tourists there from Thailand.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting news, how people are avoiding Thailand and their industry is actually going down, but they're actually inadvertently helping the people around them to boost the tourism industry.
Yeah.
I think we also reported earlier that the US is actually is also threatening to withdraw its military aid if Thailand doesn't return to democracy soon. And now we can see that people worldwide are also losing their interest in Thailand. But why do you think they're saying that Bangkok has actually been more peaceful since the coup?
Well, I don't know, but I don't think so. Even though the Tourist Authority of Thailand had repeatedly sought to reassure travelers the country remains safe, but I think it is not, because there's curfew in Thailand that the whole Thai society need to observe, and somehow the military controls almost everything, even social media. You cannot say anything about the military without being feared that you are being monitored or watched. And also I think I saw a lot of in social media, Thai people holding the placard, democracy for Thailand or something like that. So it shows that what the aspirations of the military is not aligned with the aspiration of the Thai people.
But do you think, as a tourist, like with all the trouble that's going on there, even though they keep telling you that it's safe, you'll be fine, and
I don't know about you. What about you? Would you go to Thailand? I mean, I think I would go just to witness the protest. But
actually, I think I would go, but I'll probably just avoid the major cities where the demonstrations are not allowed. I guess where people are actually like reading, protesting, or doing all the three finger signs. I'll probably go to like the outskirts of Thailand, but. I think it is hard to, maybe because we're really close to Thailand, so we don't really feel that much threatened. But for people from US or Australia, like in this case, I'm sure they don't know what actually is happening there. And it's hard to tell them that, oh, it's fine, you can come to our country, like you'll be okay, I'm sure they'll feel threatened, and especially if they have kids and all, they want to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I think on long run, I don't think it would be good for Thai's tourism, unless they do not want to focus on tourism like some countries. So for Thailand, I mean, if tourism is their focus, they better get their politics upright.
That's right, but it doesn't seem like they are going to get out of it anytime soon, because it was supposed to be a democratic country. I think I read an article that said that the military leader actually said that there will be no elections for at least the next 1 or 2 years until everything gets back to order. So I think 1 or 2 years is a pretty long time for the military to be in charge and handling the country. And it's only been like, a month so far? And we already have all these interest all over the world dropping in Thailand, their tourism industry, and America is pulling out. So if it goes on for for 2 years. Can you imagine what are the repercussions that they will be facing?
One of the, to me, right, this might be a natural occurrence in Thai politics because I just read from social media that since the 90s, there's already been 3 coups happened.
Right.
So it seems like probably every 5 to 10 years there would be one coup happening.
Actually, to date, I think this is like their 18th coup that's happened in Thailand. So I'm not sure how long was the longest one, but I think this is probably the one that's impacting them the most with everything that's happening over there.
So the next one is in Singapore, right? The news?
Yeah, it is.
So in today's online.
Yeah, it seems that Singapore sees bright prospects in Islamic finance, MAS.
So I guess Singapore has followed suit Malaysia in terms of trying to sort of expand their outreach towards Islamic finance and other Islamic, businesses.
Yeah, I think Singapore's prospects in Islamic finance is looking bright with more funds establishing themselves here to tap the Islamic debt market, according to the Monetary Authority of Singapore. So that's what MAS is.
It's not the flight airline.
And Singapore is actually the only non-Muslim majority country among the top 15 countries for Islamic finance, said MAS Managing Director Ravi Menon at the opening of the 5th World Islamic Banking Conference Asia Summit that is being held in the city-state.
So more funds continue to be established there to meet demands from clients in Asia as well as from the Middle East. So sukuk, bond-like structures that comply with Islamic investment principles which prohibit the charging of or paying of interest. So Islamic finance has been growing by double digits in recent years, making it one of the star performers in international finance. It's interesting because a lot of the Muslims, as they become more established in terms of their socio-economic status and all that, they hold strong. They hold stronger to their faith, and even in their daily lives, they want to subscribe to something that is more Islamic. And Islamic finance is definitely one of the key area that Muslims are tapping in. I think that's the reason why Singapore is interested in sort of expand its Islamic finance instruments.
Yeah, I guess because they haven't tried it before, so and a lot of countries that have actually been practicing Islamic finance are actually doing very well, and that's probably why even being a non-Muslim majority country, they are still willing to give it a try and adopt this new financing system.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to me, it's a good thing, but at the same time, I guess at the same time, I still a bit not convinced, whether Islamic finance and the normal commercial banking has any difference or much difference. But at the same time, I think it's a good thing, for countries such as Singapore to expand its business or its markets towards the Muslim as well.
And I think there are 15 banks in Singapore now involved in the Islamic banking, which is double the number 5 years ago. So maybe there are actually advantages to Islamic banking compared to the conventional way, like you mentioned just now.
But then we also have to realize that usually businesses, they will answers to markets. So the more Muslim middle class they are, the more Islamic financial banks they are. So that's the more realistic. That's a more realistic view that I can see.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the next one is in Vietnam.
Yeah, it seems that Vietnam is seeking to expand their ties with U.S. Receiving a Pritzker Prize in Hanoi, Sang expressed his pleasure at growing bilateral relations, noting that the U.S. had become one of Vietnam's leading partners. For her part, Pritzker informed the president that many U.S. enterprises and corporations wanted to expand their operations in Vietnam, especially after the Trans-Pacific partnership is signed.
So regarding the East Asia situation, Pritzker reaffirms the U.S. oppositions to China's Provocations Act and support for peaceful measures to resolve the conflict. So President Tsang welcomed the U.S. Commerce Secretary's visit, saying that it would boost comprehensive partnership between both sides. He remarked that since the normalizations of ties between Vietnam and U.S., the bilateral relations has come a long way.
Yeah, and Tsang also said that he hoped Vietnam and the U.S. will facilitate the implementation of the joint statement that he and President Barack Obama signed last year in July. And he also thanked the U.S. Congress and government for their timely opposition to China's illegal placement of an oil rig in the Vietnamese waters.
Yeah, so to me, it's a very positive development that the U.S. and Vietnam has finally, having a more stronger relationship, and I think it's also because of China in that sense. Vietnam is one of the most anti-Chinese country compared to other Southeast Asian country, especially its Southeast Seas, which is the South China Seas, is being sort of invaded in a way by China.
It seems that China hasn't really been responding to this matter besides by using their ships with the missiles and all pointing towards Vietnam. There has not been any dialogue about it, but Vietnam is pretty strong about asserting its territorial rights, about defending the country's sovereignty and protecting it against China. But it seems that nothing has been actually officially achieved so far.
That's true, and I think in the long run, and Vietnam definitely need allies, and having U.S. as allies is very good. But at the same time, they need to be more cautious with the U.S. because you see how the U.S. whenever there's a U.S. presence in a country, that means that it has some capitalistic interest in it as well. It's not just about
like a hidden agenda, if I may use that term here. Well, I guess they usually want something back in return, which is pretty standard when it comes to making a deal. But like you said, they should be careful in terms of what they agree to give back to US in return.
For example, like whenever there's a US presence, there's always a Starbucks. And what I know, when I was in Vietnam, they have one of the best and the most charming cafes. Like they have small cafes everywhere. Each cafe have their own version of coffee, and which is very tasty, the Vietnamese coffee. And I cannot imagine Vietnam being replaced by Starbucks, because it's like a world away, between Vietnamese coffee and Starbucks coffee. And that's the reason why I think Vietnam needs to be very careful, because I always believe that economic interest is one of the main priority in every countries. So when dealing with diplomatic matters, it's always better to assure that the relationship should be just involving security, that's it, or involving certain areas that is not jeopardizing the Vietnamese interest as well.
So let's move on to our next news, which involves both Australia and Indonesia actually. It seems that Tony Abbott's phone call with Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono was recorded by an Indonesian journalist, as reported by ABC.net.
Interesting.
So on the eve of the crucial fence-mending talks with the Indonesian president, Prime Minister Tony Abbott has avoided questions about whether he knew journalists in Bali were listening to a phone call between the two leaders last month. And I guess we know that this talk came because of the refugees that were not refugees. What do you call them? Those people
Which one?
On the boat who were heading to Australia, and they were turned back, and then we were waiting for the dialogue to happen, and
I think they are refugees, isn't it?
Yeah, and So there was actually someone who recorded the whole conversation of the two presidents. The leaders were discussing options to meet up in June, and the talks have now been locked in for tomorrow on Indonesia's Batam Island, said to be the first face-to-face meeting between the two men in 6 months.
So when asking this morning by radio presenter Chris Almond whether he knew Indonesian journalist has been listening to his conversation last month, Mr. Abbott replied that the important thing was the conversation was very genial. So the important thing is also that the quality of the conversation. And he said that this is stated by Mr. Abbott. I've always emerged from my discussions with President Yudhoyono feeling uplifted and encouraged.
So I think we don't actually know how the journalists managed to record the whole conversation between the two presidents. But I think that's a very good response from Mr. Tony Abbott that he said there's nothing to worry about because the conversation was genial, and that's the most important thing. It's not it's not really about somebody eavesdropped and that's a big deal now.
I think it's a good thing because it shows that these leaders somehow have their own principles and they are not two-faced, meaning that they deal with the public, the manner that they deal with the public and the manner that they deal with other presidents or other top leaders is the same as well. So I think it is a good thing. I mean, I cannot imagine like some leaders would probably be very paranoid that people are monitoring them and recording their conversations.
And they probably get all riled up and want to maybe arrest the journalists, even I think in certain countries for doing something like that. But I guess Tony Abbott is handling it really well, as well as Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono.
I think it's great that leaders are being transparent of their conversation, and also their intention.
And this should probably be how it's done in the future. Maybe all conversations should probably be transparent because the people have a right to know what they're discussing about and what are the terms that they're talking about and what they're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, whatever they decide goes back and affects the entire country.
Especially when it affects people. I mean, these refugees, people living, people who do not have any place to go and who run away from their country because they are either being bogged down by their very poor socioeconomic condition, or they are political refugees. I think these are lives. We cannot just. I mean, leaders cannot just say that we don't want to care about them. They are not part of us. I think they should, between countries, they should definitely discuss seriously about this matter.
Right. I think that's all the time that we have for today.
Yep.
I hope everyone enjoyed the news and learned a thing or two from us today. We'll be back in a bit for our Blast from the Grassroots session. So stay tuned at durianasean.com.